Welcome, everybody, to our second episode of Off Court Connection presented by Hall Pass Media. So excited to have Heavyn Jackson and Ben Tenzer on with us today. How are you guys doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. Before we jump into anything, I want to take a moment to thank the healthcare workers and the first responders, the essential workers, delivery drivers, teachers, grocery store workers. It's just kind of an ongoing battle, everything we're fighting, and it's going to be happening for a while. So I just want to say how much we appreciate the sacrifices they're all making every day. So how are you guys doing? What are you guys up to?
We're good. Yeah, go ahead, Heavyn. I'll let you.
Everything is good. I'm sure we're all in our homes, sick of being at home, but knowing that it's the safest option right now. I was in Oregon and I recently came out here to be with my family in LA. So that was in the beginning of May. So I quarantined by myself for 2 months, had enough of it, and came back home.
Yeah, and Ben, you have a baby. How's that going?
Yeah, it's good. It's really good. She's her name is Sophie. She's 7 months old. So it's definitely a silver lining with all this to be able to spend so much time with her. Yeah, my wife gave me a haircut this morning, so that was a big win. And yeah, we've been in hardcore quarantine. So we're actually seeing some friends later for the first time and doing like a social distance thing in the backyard. So I've never been so excited to just go hang out in a backyard before. But yeah, it's good. I mean, my wife's family is here, so it's nice to be able to see them, and they get to see their granddaughter, which is awesome. So yeah, no complaints at all. Trying to keep busy and hope basketball is back soon.
Yeah. Are you guys gonna be grilling outside?
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah.
Grilling? Okay. Cool.
Yeah, it's like 80 degrees here today, so it's beautiful.
Yeah. With basketball coming back soon, how are you guys staying connected with your teams and the VSL family during these times?
For my team, we've been doing Zooms kind of weekly, and then we noticed that quarantine wasn't ending, so weekly was kind of a bit too much. So I think it's bi-weekly now, but just Zooms, emails, phone calls, anyway, Instagram, TikTok.
A lot of group chats going on.
A lot of group chats.
Yeah. How about you, Ben?
Yeah, same for us. I mean, we have several Zoom calls a week as we're doing Zoom interviews for the draft prospects. So that's kind of fun because it actually, instead of having the combine and be able to fly these guys in and you get to interview them in person, take them to dinner and see them work out, we just do these, we call them Zoom reviews. So it's fun. I mean, it's like, usually 30, 45 minutes and just get to know the guys. And then we'll do, besides that, probably 1 or 2 Zoom calls a week with the whole front office to just kind of check in, make sure everyone's mental health is doing well, and normal updates about work things. So it's like PR and player development and the medical staff. So yeah, it's fun. It's definitely different not being there every day with them, but we're all getting through it, and it's kind of enjoyable to be able to jump on a Zoom. And you think about technology right now, it's so clutch to have these Zoom calls because like 10 years ago, what would we do? It's kind of bizarre to think about that.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's such a different layout that would be happening right now to think back to those times. How are you guys managing your roles? Has it changed at all? Ben, you're director of basketball operations for the Nuggets. Heavyn, you're team relations with the Trailblazers. Have you had to wear different hats and kind of change a couple things you're doing to pick up a couple things that have changed?
You can go ahead, Ben.
Okay. Honestly, not really. It's weird. I mean, there's a lot less going on, so it's I guess it's a little more kind of like day-to-day management of different things. But because there's hopefully we have a plan soon when we're coming back to basketball. It's just a lot less things going on. Like, for example, I do a lot of the salary cap work, and right now, and player contracts, player transactions, and right now you can't do any of that stuff. And the projections of the cap is, they come out at the beginning of the season, and that's, most likely going to be drastically different. So in terms of planning for free agency and kind of moving forward with financials, you just don't really have a lot of information on what that will be like. So, I guess in the sense there's a lot more different projections and planning we're looking at, but it's kind of hard to take it super seriously because there's so much uncertainty with it. So just kind of waiting anxiously to see what happens, and then we can kind of move forward with with our plan.
Yeah. I'm not super familiar with sitting down and signing contracts and all that. What are those moments like with those players in person, getting them signed with their team? What's that energy like?
It's unique, and it's one of my favorite parts of the job because like I'll write up the contracts from their rookie contract to that was Nicola's big, close to max $148 million contract. And so it's kind of cool to really see their true colors and how happy they are to kind of have made it. With our team and our culture, and hopefully with most players, they the hard work doesn't stop. It's kind of like the start of a new chapter. And so, but to be around them and their families to really celebrate those moments is special. And you really get a glimpse of what they're really like in their true colors. And with Nicola, he has two brothers, and so they were there with him, just hugging and chanting in Serbian, and it was pretty awesome to see how proud they were. He's the baby of the brothers, and like I have an older brother, and we're really close, and so to see how proud they were, it was a pretty special time. That same day, we actually signed Will Barton to a big contract as well. And so, he has a totally different background than Nicola. Nicola's from Serbia, Will's from Baltimore. So Will had his whole family fly in. And just to see how far they've come, and it's a really unique thing. And I like to we signed Gary Harris to a pretty big extension. I sent him a picture of him signing his rookie contract, and it just said, look how far you've come. And it's kind of a special moment to really see them through their career. And you hope they don't change too much and they stay humble. But it's just it's kind of funny to see, like, hey, 4 years ago, think about your mentality then and where you're at now. So it's definitely a really cool thing to be able to be a part of that.
Yeah, those full circle moments are just so awesome. And being in person, like having their families there, it's just, I miss that. I miss the environment and just the energy of being around people. What do you guys miss about being in the environment and with your teams and with everybody day to day?
I for sure say just miss human interaction, just being able to say hi to someone, to be able to hug someone, high five. I'm sure fans miss players being able to sign autographs, interviews. What else do I miss? I want to say the bulk of what I do is on game nights. So I take care of the families, I take care of the kids' room, the family rooms. I'm making sure players get to and from their interviews at the end of the game. So just that human interaction. That's the biggest thing that I miss. And obviously the grind to make it into the playoffs.
Totally.
Yeah, I miss just the day-to-day kind of what she said about, just everyone being around, and how much I never realized how hard it is to stay connected when you don't, you take it for granted that you're with these people every day. And I can just pop down to the training room and check in with our trainer and see what's going on with him. And, not just work stuff, but, you're kind of a family when you're all in this together. And so checking in on, their kids and saying hi to their kids and their wives at the games, and just kind of the day-to-day grind of being around them. And it's totally different having, it takes a lot more effort, to be honest, to text everyone and call everyone. And some guys aren't the best communicators, so if they don't respond to your text, you can you'll definitely be able to catch them in the locker room. Or I do the visas and the immigration for our team. So like certain questionnaires when we're doing a visa or paperwork stuff, it's like not that easy to explain stuff over the phone So, you know, knowing that I can just go down to the locker room and catch them after practice to really, you know, make sure it's very clear what they're signing and those kinds of things. You know, you just totally take it for granted. So I would say that's the thing I miss most. And obviously the energy of being around the games and you know, all the fun stuff of the job is it's just, but I mean, I guess because there's no basketball, you know, I don't really know what I'm missing out on it. And when there's games back, we'll see, you know, how unique of an environment it is. But yeah, it's crazy. I mean, what an unprecedented time.
Yeah, we have the best jobs in the world. I mean, working in the NBA, it's insane. It's so fun and yeah, just that energy. And you guys have the most interesting stories of how you got into sports. And I kind of want to start from the beginning. Did you guys always know you wanted to work into sports? Heavyn, you kind of have an interesting background of being born into it. When did you know you wanted to work in sports?
I would say it hit me in college. I went to college at the University of San Francisco, and at that time, my dad was coaching for the Warriors. So being able to, one, grow up in it when he was playing as I was a child, but then also those memories weren't really lasting because I was probably 2, 3, maybe 4 years old at the oldest. So being able to be a college student and actually in it and seeing my dad coaching just inspired me to maybe dip my feet in the water and test it out a little bit. And I want to say that's how I got into Summer League. And from there, I took the journey of figuring out if I wanted to work for a team. At the time after I graduated, I worked as a behavioral therapist for a little bit with children with autism. And then a year and a half after that, I landed a job with the Blazers. So I don't think there was a certain moment where I was like, yes, I need to work in the NBA, because I don't think I necessarily need to work in the NBA, but I definitely think growing up in an NBA family, I relate to players, and now I'm able to relate to the business side.
Yeah. How about your position? Did you always know you wanted to work in the relations side? I know you wore so many hats at Summer League. You got so many roles and responsibilities. When did you kind of figure out, or are you still figuring out, this is where I want to be, this is what I'm good at, these are my skills?
I'm absolutely still trying to figure it out. Going into it, I think I'm good in speaking with people, individuals. Not really sure about interviews yet, but speaking with people one-on-one and that interpersonal connection. So when it comes to team relations and handling family members and handling our players during team appearances, I think I excel there. And then media relations, the same. So just trying to figure out where my feet should be planted, whether it's team relations, media communications, or the basketball operations side where I'm inputting where the team stays when we're on the road, what time we have practices, the logistics side.
Yeah. Well, I think you're killing the interviews, so don't count out broadcast. Ben, how about you? Where did you get your start?
So it's kind of funny thinking back so long ago. So when I was 20 years old, I grew up in Los Angeles. I worked at MTV 3 summers in a row in like working on music videos. And I love the entertainment industry. My dad was a talent agent. I was obsessed with sports. I loved it. And I just, I knew it would be competitive. So I never really thought too much about trying to do it. But one of my best friends growing up was a big sports agent's son. His name's Arn Tellem is the father, and Michael is the son. So we grew up together. So I was around the industry just as a bystander. And Mike and I worked really well. We interned together at MTV this one summer, and we had a great time doing it together. And we said, well, let's try to change it up and work for your dad at the agency. So it was actually the second year of Vegas Summer League. So we worked for his dad. It was at SFX at the time, basically just driving around and players that were getting ready to enter the draft in Los Angeles. And then Arn is close at the time. He was close with Warren Legary, the guy that started Summer League. So Arn set us up with Warren, and we went to San Francisco for I want to say 4 weeks and worked with in Warren's office. So he was an agent for GMs and coaches at the time. So we're kind of learning the business through that lens. And also, he had just started Summer League. So we're kind of paying attention to that lens. So it was Mike, myself, and Mike's cousin, Alex Snyder, who has worked at Summer League. We all worked at Summer League together for a really long time. And so we worked in San Francisco and then drove to Las Vegas to start working at Summer League when there was, I think, 12 teams, and it was, just totally brand new. We were 20 years old. And so we had a blast. It was, now Summer League's about 12 days. At the time, it was 3 weeks. There was a thing called the Global Hoop Summit, which was a small tournament after the Summer League. I think it was actually a contingent plan if there was a lockout, there was a potential lockout that summer. So they added that tournament in case there was going to be a lockout. So we were in Vegas for way too long, but had a blast. It was 3 weeks, but we were 20 years old, so we were loving life. I'm 35 now, and after 4 days of Vegas, I'm completely exhausted. so we finished that summer, and I was going to my junior year at University of Colorado Boulder, and Warren at the time was representing the Nuggets GM Kiki Vandeweghe and the head coach George Karl. So he set me up with an internship my junior year, and I started working in the Nuggets in 2005, 2006. I caught on and was invited back my senior year, graduated, and then got hired full time. So yeah, I did that for 4 years, 4 seasons, stayed working at the Summer League all those years, and then left in 2009 after the Nuggets went to the Western Conference Finals, and left to go to law school. So I went back to LA and immediately realized how much I missed basketball and the sports world. So stayed as involved as I could through the summers and worked for Warren, worked for Albert in the Summer League. And then that's when I really, I kind of lucked into it initially. I didn't really realize how lucky I was, but after I left the Nuggets and went to law school, I missed it so much and realized how bad I really wanted to pursue a true career in sports. So kind of learn how to figure out the legal aspect of sports and basketball and the salary cap. And so once I essentially finished up law school, I got hired to be the director of basketball operations, my current role at the Nuggets. So just kind of luck and timing. And yeah, it's kind of, it's a really small world. So your network is really important. And, just kind of getting to know the people of the Nuggets. And Josh Kroenke, the owner, he kind of took a chance on me right out of law school. And I had developed a relationship with him from my 4 years there prior. And 7 years later, here I am as been at the Nuggets 11 years total. So yeah, it's crazy how it all works out. But just kind of I guess the simplest way of saying it is you just have a positive attitude, and you have to be careful not to be too aggressive, but you try to be aggressive and put yourself in a position to succeed, and kind of go through these doors and hope that it works out for the best. And in such a competitive industry, it's hard to really kind of path out how you want to play your career. You just kind of take every step as it goes, and you just hope for the best. And I've been really, really fortunate to be with a great organization and a great front office. You can see the picture up there. That's from this past season. Arturas, the guy middle right, he just left to run the Chicago Bulls. So we'll miss him greatly. But yeah, we have a great group. So I feel very, very fortunate to be where I am today.
Yeah, you were with Summer League then from the beginning and for a long time. And it comes with so many growth opportunities and valuable lessons learned. Did you have any experiences that really taught you either, okay, not going to do that again, or this is the right way to do it? What'd you kind of learn throughout Summer League that you apply to your role now day to day?
100%. I remember I guess all the normal things of hard work and persistence and, you know, kind of like emotional intelligence and being able to deal with, you know, all types of people, whether they're players. I remember Chris Paul was a rookie and I gave him a ride home and I thought it was, you know, the coolest thing ever. And owners would come and I would deal with owners. And so all the normal stuff of just being professional, I think, is probably the biggest thing. But then there was one story that I like to talk about with Albert and Warren and kind of the original people we worked with. That my very first summer, Warren, who's can be kind of intense sometimes, I guess is a good way to say it. He asked me to. He wanted to follow me to Costco to pick up some stuff for that first year, like snacks and drinks and stuff. And it was essentially a miscommunication. I thought I was going to follow him, and then he ended up saying, I'm going to follow you. And this was before we had Google Maps on our phone and we could just, you know, pop in and know exactly where we're going. And I had gone on a run there for maybe 4 days before. And so he's pretty intense, you know, let's go. So I'm like, oh, okay. I start driving, hoping that I can kind of figure out where I'm going. And then about halfway through the ride, he ends up saying, okay, well, let's go to the arena first. So we get to the arena and he realizes that I run into to print directions and he realizes that I was going to take him on a wild goose chase to Costco, and he just went off on me about how, and it was like one of those things that was so terrifying at the time, but it was such a great lesson because he said, look, if you don't know what you're doing, speak up. There's no bad questions. I know he says it all the time to the interns, you know, don't be afraid to say you don't know. And it was like one of those crazy lessons that I really remember sticking with me. And it's hard, you know, that day you're so upset, you know, your boss yelled at you, but it's, you know, I like think about it all the time, how, you know, if I don't know something, I'm not afraid to say it. And, you know, it's better to say you don't know than to make a bad mistake and, you know, pretend like you do. And, you know, 50-50, he doesn't get to Costco that day. And, you know, it's a way longer day than it has to be. So that was a funny one. And another quick one was Albert. At one point we were wrapping up summer league and he wanted me to put a bunch of boxes into the truck to drive it to like the storage unit. And so we're at the loading dock and there's like banners and basketballs and all these different things we're loading up, and he basically said load everything into the truck. And the actual UNLV basketball hoop was back there, and I loaded that into the truck, not really just paying attention to like that. It's definitely not ours, and that has to stay here. And so he comes back like 15 minutes later, and everything's in the truck. I felt like I did a great job, and he's like, "What the hell are you doing? The bat? I didn't. This is UNLV." He's like, "Think about this for a second." I was like, "Yeah, you're right." You know, it's like kind of you don't really you take it for granted. You know, he's like, "Well, you told me to load everything up," but it's like, you know, emotional intelligence is really important. It's, you know, it's like, don't just take everything literally. Obviously that's not ours, you know, think it through. And it's kind of like, you know, slow down, you know, be patient with your tasks and, you know, just kind of like think about what you're doing, because it's a fast-paced environment and, you know, you got to be able to read the situation well. And I think that's super important in my day-to-day role, you know, and in life in general, is just, you know, read the situation. You know, you can't always take everything too literally because there's a lot of stuff going on. And I think about it as I manage other people, you know, how to give directions properly and things like that. So it's pretty cool to think back 15 years ago on those lessons. And, you know, I still think about them all the time.
Yeah, and they're always good ones. They make you laugh. I mean, you're down there and all the professionals in the NBA are down there, and then there's just you and you just want to do everything. That common sense slips away so easily when you're just trying to do everything perfect. So
absolutely.
Yeah. Heavyn, you wore so many hats down there, and every time I was running around that, you were doing something different, and they had given you another responsibility. And how have you translated that to your work
now? Definitely just the flexibility of no job is too small. And like Ben said, always asking questions before just doing something wrong. So in summer league, like you said, I wore many hats, which could represent balance in a sense. And so I think with the Blazers, I bring a sense of calm to the people that I work with. Just being able to slow everyone down, whether it's with the questions that I have or with the little bit of what else? I think a lot of people tell me that I work with that my tone of voice brings calming to any situation. So I think just talking things through with people, asking them questions, whether they're stuck in a certain situation, if we have one player and we can't get him down to a player appearance, just going through all the logistics with them and making sure everything works perfectly. If that makes any sense.
No, totally. Every time I'd be like, I gotta go talk to this player and we have to ask him all these questions. And then I'd see you and I'd be like, oh, like a breath.
Thank you.
Oh, you're always so calm and just so on it. I don't know. You just do things with such grace. It's amazing.
Thank you.
And you're from LA and now you're in Portland. What's that transition like for an LA girl?
So originally I'm actually from New York. And I always, no, because a lot of people always tell me I'm from LA because I grew up in LA, but I represent New York because I was born in New York. Both of my parents are from New York. So you're technically right. To most people in the world, you're right. But I say that I'm from New York. So being from New York, growing up all over the place from Indiana to Canada to Houston to where else have I lived? Denver and LA, the majority.
Lived? Do you know how many?
Say that again?
Do you know how many places you've lived in?
Off the top, no, but I mean, we can sit here and count. I'm pretty sure at least 5. And I feel like there's way more, but at least 5. And I want to say the favorite place that I've lived is Canada. So hopefully I can end up with someone who's Canadian so that I can have dual citizenship and end up over there. But yeah, Canada. So being from New York, now living in LA, or now being in LA, but living in Oregon, you're asking me the differences, or what was your question again?
Just the adjustments. Like, what has Portland been like? What's the vibe there?
It's definitely different. I want to say they're slow, super slow pace in Portland, especially compared to LA. Just driving on the freeway alone, you can see how slow people drive. And I think, in my personal opinion, that's the reason why they compare traffic to LA traffic. I only think it's because they drive super slow. I don't think it's because there's a bunch of traffic. But living in Oregon, it's different. The diversity is very different in my opinion. Moving out there, I was kind of walking on eggshells prior to determining that I wanted to join the Blazers and leave my life that I knew as being with my family and just moving all alone with my dog to a state that has roughly 5% people who look like me. So that was deeply something that caught me off guard, all the way off guard. I'm not saying LA is the most diverse place, but going from somewhere that is a little bit diverse to somewhere that's hardly any diversity was definitely an adjustment that needed to be made.
Yeah. And when I saw you were traveling on the road and you bumped into family, your dad, but also people you grew up with like Reggie Miller, what's that like now working alongside them in the environment?
It's so weird. Just growing up and being in the stands and seeing my dad either on the court or on the sidelines to now I'm sitting at the sidelines and my dad's also sitting on the sidelines, and it's a surreal moment. And even seeing my uncle, he's always making sure that I come over and take a selfie with him every single time, no matter if the game is about to start and I need to be in my seat or he needs to be on air. We make sure to get those pictures done. But it's surreal, and I'm truly, truly grateful that I am privileged enough to be in the position that I am, and have the opportunities that I have.
Yeah. And being in the positions you guys are in, what advice do you have to people coming up that if you could do over mistakes you had or roadblocks you ran into, like what would you give them to breaking into the industry?
I would say it's hard to, I mean, it's so competitive that I think one thing early on that until you go through, you don't really realize is when you're rejected from a job, it might not be anything you did wrong. Most of the time it's not. There's just so much going on with these roles, and there's, it's just so limited that I used to really take it to heart that like what happened. I thought I was a finalist, and then I started to realize, especially it's easier now being on the other side of it, that most of the time it has nothing to do with you as a candidate, and you just have to stay confident and kind of keep your head up because it's not necessarily something you did wrong. It's just, there's a very high level talent pool out there, and it's just hard to break in, and you just got to keep trying and keep your foot on the pedal and just kind of do the best you can with it. But there's no right answer about how to do it, or like people get super aggressive, and personally I don't always think that's the best way to do it, because sometimes you rub people the wrong way if you're too aggressive. But some people appreciate being aggressive, and so there's no right answer. And I hate to just be vague with the right way of doing things, but I would say you just have to keep your head up and keep trying, and just don't lose confidence in your ability to get it done. And eventually, if you're smart and you're qualified, you'll get a shot. And once you get your shot and you get the door open, that's when you can really grow and thrive, and try to just meet as many people as you can, and keep a large network if you can, and just kind of keep trying to connect with people and doing the best you can. But it's tough, and it's easy to just kind of get down on yourself when you're struggling, but you just got to keep your head up and just keep going for it.
Yeah, I think the most relevant advice someone gave me is just always be ready, and be ready for that opportunity to come. And when it does, take advantage of it and do the best you can. So yeah,
For sure.
I agree with that. Heavyn, what do you think?
Definitely. I think the most important thing is, like you said, be ready, but also not to be afraid of asking for help. Whether it is taking this off-court connection right here and seeing Ben, myself, and Payton and DMing us and asking us for advice, or if it's going on LinkedIn and seeing people with your the job that you aspire to have and asking them for advice, or asking them for informational interviews, because that's literally how I ended up in Portland. I simply asked for an informational interview. I spoke with 3 people, and those 3 people are now my bosses. So don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to reach out for help. Just make those connections and keep it going.
I love it. You guys are so awesome. Thanks for hopping on today. Everything you said, so insightful and valuable for those young professionals wanting to come up in the league. So I appreciate your time today. I want to
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. I want to thank Hall Pass Media for giving us this show and platform to talk with everyone and stay connected. And they have amazing shows going on right now. They have Mark Jones with his show and Basketball Jones. They have Sports Business Classroom, Pickup Game with Seth Greenberg. So they're all really great. And you can tune in at hallpassnetwork.com/web shows. So definitely don't want to miss those. Do you guys want to plug your social medias where everyone can follow along with what you're doing?
You guys can follow me on Instagram at Heavyn's World. Oh, there it goes at the bottom. And for my summer league family, my sweet 25 people wanted me to shout them out. So hi guys.
I love it. I love it.
I got nothing. I'm not a big social media person. I apologize. So I'll roll with Heavyn's plug on hers, and support Heavyn in her social media.
So I guess I'll be getting those DMs that are supposed to go to Ben.
Exactly.
Great. Thanks again, and stay healthy out there.
You too. Thanks, Payton.
Bye.